I still remember the exact moment she laughed. We were sitting in our tiny kitchen, the one with the warped linoleum floor and the faucet that always dripped unless you turned it just so. She was barefoot, balancing a half-empty glass of wine in one hand and her phone in the other, scrolling through some influencer's Instagram feed. I was holding a spreadsheet printout, highlighter in hand, trying to show her how we could cut back just a little this month, switch to store-brand groceries, eat out less, hold off on that trip to Tulum her friend had been gassing up in the group chat. She barely glanced at me. "You're adorable," she said, voice thick with Chardonnay and condescension. "Saving money? For what? Your little rainy day?" Then she laughed. Loud. Careless. The kind of laugh you throw out when you think you've already won the argument. Or the life. It wasn't cruel, not directly. But it echoed. Stuck with me. Like a splinter in the quiet parts of my day. Back then, I didn't say much. Just smiled and turned the page in the budget. Because I loved her. Because I thought we were on the same team. We weren't. Her name was Jamie. We met during a New Year's Eve house party on the edge of the city. One of those too loud, too crowded affairs where everyone's pretending to be more successful than they are. I was there because a friend dragged me. She was there because she never missed a chance to be seen. She sparkled that night. Red lips, gold heels, eyes that seemed to look right through you and still pull you in. I was quieter. A CPA with a slightly crooked smile and too much in student loans. She liked that I listened more than I talked. I liked that she lit up every room. Within months, we were living together. She worked in PR, flashy job title, endless events, champagne toasts, and a wardrobe that could have funded a down payment. I handled the numbers, paid the bills, set up the savings account she never asked about. When we got married 2 years later, I didn't even blink at the cost. I just adjusted the spreadsheet, moved numbers, canceled my gym membership, and sold my motorcycle. She wanted a rooftop wedding. She got one. For the first year or so, I told myself we were just growing in different directions. She started working later hours, posting more curated selfies, captioning everything like her life was a motivational poster. Manifesting millions, she'd write, even as our credit card bills quietly piled up. I tried talking to her about it. "Babe, we're not broke," she'd say, waving a manicured hand. "We're just temporarily underfunded." She called me old-fashioned when I suggested a joint checking account. Called me pessimistic when I mentioned building an emergency fund. When I said I wanted to pay off our debt before we bought a house, she rolled her eyes. "You always think small," she said. "No wonder your career's crawling." That one hurt more than I let on. Because I wasn't crawling. Quietly, behind the scenes, I'd been making moves. Investing. Saving. Building something I couldn't quite name yet, but believed in. Maybe because I needed to believe in something. When the world felt chaotic, money made sense. Numbers added up. Discipline had results. She saw money as something to spend. I saw it as a lifeline. Our tipping point came on a Sunday morning. I'd just gotten off the phone with a potential client, my first big freelance consulting gig outside the firm. She was in the living room, watching some reality show with the volume way too high, scrolling her phone like always. "I just landed that logistics client I told you about," I said, grinning. "Could mean a big bonus. Maybe even enough to start putting toward a house." She looked up, blinked once, then shrugged. "Cool. Can we still go to Ibiza in June?" I laughed. I actually laughed. Thought she was joking. She wasn't. She wanted to use my bonus to fund another Instagrammable vacation. Another temporary high. I said no. She said I was suffocating her. That she didn't marry a spreadsheet. That I was acting like her father. That last one stung. Her father was an overbearing type who once tried to argue with our florist over color palettes. I wasn't him. That night, I slept on the couch for the first time. I kept saving after that. Quietly. Relentlessly. Took on side clients. Opened new accounts. Diversified. Learned about long-term investing, estate planning. She never asked. Just kept swiping, spending, sipping. Laughed when I brought up the idea of downsizing. "You act like we're poor," she'd say. "It's embarrassing." I said nothing. Not out loud. But the numbers were talking. And they were saying something she couldn't hear. The final crack wasn't even dramatic. She just came home one night, tossed her keys in the bowl by the door, and said she wanted space. I asked what that meant. She said she didn't know. That she felt stuck, like she was wasting her prime. I moved out a week later. She kept the apartment, the couch, the espresso machine. I took the hard drives, the notebooks, the safe from the back of the closet. Everything she didn't think was worth much. We filed for divorce 3 months after that. She was all smiles and mediation. Wore bright lipstick. Laughed at my clothes. Asked the mediator if he could make me pay for her lifestyle transition. He didn't. The settlement was clean. Simple. She got the furniture. I got the accounts she didn't know existed. Now it's been a year. And last night, at 12:14 a.m., I got a text from a number I hadn't saved. I stared at it for a long time. Hey, you up? There was no name. Just that. But I knew who it was. Of course I did. I didn't respond. Not yet. Because the truth is, I'm not sure what I want to say. Not yet. It started with that message. Just 5 words. Hey, you up? Harmless, if you didn't know the history. If you hadn't shared a bed with the person who sent it. If you hadn't once believed she'd never be the kind of person who would take your loyalty and treat it like a debit card with no daily limit. I didn't reply that night. I just stared at the screen, thumb hovering, mind racing. Because even though it was late, even though she was technically out of my life, my heart still knew her number. Not just the digits. Her rhythm. The way she used silence to bait attention. The way she weaponized timing. Midnight wasn't random. Midnight was when walls were low and regrets were high. I placed my phone face down and went to bed. The next morning, there were 3 more messages. Didn't mean to bother you. Just couldn't sleep. Everything's so weird lately. I miss talking to you. That last one. That's the one that stuck. Because the thing was, I missed talking to her too. Or maybe just the version of her I remembered. The version that used to laugh at my corny jokes and fall asleep with her leg draped over mine. The girl who once brought me hot tea when I had the flu and rubbed my back until I passed out. That girl hadn't been around for years. But I still missed her. Or maybe I missed the idea of her. 2 days passed. I didn't respond. On the 3rd day, I walked past a storefront I hadn't noticed before, shabby, with peeling gold letters that read Consignment Couture. Inside, I saw a familiar handbag. Beige YSL, limited edition, the one I bought her for our 3rd anniversary. There was only one like that in the city when I got it. She made a whole post about it. Captioned it, "Secure the bag briefcase, #WifeLife." I walked inside. The woman at the counter didn't know who I was, of course. Just smiled and said they'd gotten a ton of nice inventory from a downtown PR firm that laid off staff. I asked if they ever got shoes. She nodded and pointed to a rack near the back. There, next to a pair of glittery red stilettos, were the nude Valentinos I bought Jamie for her old boss's retirement gala. She was pawning her life. I stood there a long while, watching pieces of her float around the room. The irony wasn't lost on me. All those years she spent laughing at me, mocking my boring little savings plans, and now she was selling handbags to keep up rent. That night, I got another message. I'm sorry about everything. I was stupid. I didn't know how good I had it. Still, I didn't reply. It wasn't that I was being cold. I just didn't trust myself yet. I knew that if I said the wrong thing, I'd fall back into something that once felt like home, but was really just a beautifully staged trap. Her apologies came too late, and too often without change. But then came the photo. She sent it 4 days after that first text. No caption. Just a picture of her sitting on a bare mattress in what looked like an unfamiliar apartment. Cracked white walls, a takeout box on the floor, her face half lit by a lamp with no shade. She looked tired. Not like the woman I once knew. Not polished or poised. No filters. Just a raw, hollow version of herself. Her eyes looked like mine did the night I moved out. That's when I realized. This wasn't manipulation. At least, not all of it. This was desperation. I sat on the couch with the photo still on my screen, and for the first time in a while, I thought about how fast everything unravels when your life is built on appearances. She was always chasing an image. Always stretching for something just beyond reach. But when the money ran out, when the friends stopped inviting her to rooftop bars, when the online likes dipped, there was nothing left but silence. And now she was reaching for me. Not because she missed me, maybe, but because she missed the stability, the safety, the man who quietly paid off her credit card bills without telling her, the man who picked her up from events at 2 a.m. and never asked who she was texting on the way home. She missed the man who kept her from facing herself. That night, I opened a new note on my phone and started writing. Not a reply. Not yet. Just thoughts. She never saw the hours I spent learning to invest. She never once asked how I managed to pay off our wedding. She called me small-minded, but I built a future she's now begging to be part of again. I didn't hate her. I didn't even want revenge. I just wanted her to understand. To see that the man she left behind had become someone she no longer had access to. Not because he was cruel, but because he had finally learned to value himself. The next morning, I woke up to one more message. I know I don't deserve it, but I don't know who else to call. Please. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I was no longer the man who sat silently while someone laughed at his dreams. I was someone else now, and I was about to decide whether to let her find out just how much. I didn't answer her right away. I left the last message on read, not out of malice, but because I needed to be sure. Sure of what I felt. Sure of what I owed her. Sure that this wasn't just another loop in the cycle we always fell into. Her reaching out when she needed something. Me stepping in because I still carried the ghost of who we used to be. So I waited. 3 days. 4. Then, on the 5th, I walked into a cafe we used to love. The kind with mismatched mugs and that strange humming fridge in the corner. I sat by the window and sent her one word. Here. She showed up 20 minutes later. Hoodie. No makeup. Hair pulled back like she hadn't bothered to try and be anyone but tired. Hey, she said, voice soft, uncertain. Like she half expected I'd stand up and leave. I didn't. I just nodded to the seat across from me. She sat, exhaled, stared at her chipped nails. You didn't have to come. I didn't, I said, and let that sit. There was a long pause. She looked around like maybe she'd find something easier to talk to in the corners of the room. I'm not here to guilt you, she said finally. I know I messed up. I was awful to you. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten until the bottom fell out. What happened? I asked, though I already knew pieces. She rubbed her hands together, lips pressed tight. The agency laid me off. Said my engagement wasn't converting, which is code for younger girls are cheaper and have more followers. Rent's overdue. Credit cards maxed. And I can't even get my old friends to return my texts. I guess I thought I had more time. I didn't say anything. She kept going. I laughed at you when you were building something. I know that. I thought I was chasing dreams, but really, I was just chasing dopamine. Likes, comments, bags, parties. All of it felt real until it didn't. That was the first moment she met my eyes. I'm sorry, she said, and I believed her. But apology doesn't rewind damage. It doesn't unlaugh at someone's dreams. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't about getting back together. It wasn't even about forgiveness. It was about closure. You told me once I think small, I said quietly. But the truth is, I think long. I play the long game. I was never flashy, never loud. But I knew exactly where I was going. You just never bothered to ask. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. You saved us. I spent us. I shook my head. No, I saved me. You never tried to be saved. We sat in silence for a while. Just the sound of spoons tapping mugs and people living simpler lives around us. Then she asked, Are you happy? I thought about that. About the quiet apartment I live in now, the freedom to choose who I let into my peace, the absence of tension in my jaw when I fall asleep. Yeah, I said. I am. She nodded slowly, then pulled something out of her bag. A small notebook. Tattered edges. She slid it across to me. I found this when I moved out of the old place. It's yours. I opened it. My old financial planning notebook. The first version. Handwritten goals. Passive income targets. Notes in the margins with things like, Jamie wants to loom. See if we can afford it by August. I almost laughed. Almost. Thanks, I said, and tucked it away. She stood, unsure whether to hug me. I didn't offer one. Take care of yourself, I said. You too. And just like that, she left. I haven't heard from her since. Maybe she found her footing again. Maybe she didn't. But that chapter, the one where I tried to prove my worth to someone who couldn't see it, that one's closed. Funny thing is, I still save money. Still build quietly. Still take pride in things no one claps for. And sometimes, late at night, I pour a drink, sit on my balcony, and stare out at the city. All those lights, all those people chasing something. And I smile. Because I wasn't chasing. I was building. And I'm still standing.